Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Tex Messages. I'm the parasite of the show, Rick Tex. We're glad to have you here. It's Tuesday morning, May 1st, 2018, first day of May. Well, yesterday was about high 70s, so it felt like the first day of summer. It's almost too hot to have this suit and tie on, so it's great to see. All the snow appears to be melted now. So we're definitely in the throngs of summer. Well, technically it's still spring. Summer doesn't officially start till like June something or another. So yeah, hopefully there'll be plenty of rain, precipitation. Certainly need the moisture for the outdoor garden, and we definitely need the sunlight for the indoor plants and the indoor starter seeds and all that good fun stuff. So yeah, it's just great to see that all the snow is finally gone. Racetracks can open. Princeton Speedway this Friday, 7 o'clock, when they drop the green flag. So that should be a good time. Apparently Granite City starts May 20th. As far as why they start that late, it doesn't seem like there would be a good answer for that, but hey, whatever works for them. If it floats their boat, then hey, why not just let them do that. Cedar Lake was last Saturday. Unfortunately, still waiting on car parts, so that was a bit of a dilemma there, and an impediment towards viewing that spectacle. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, you know, if you're ever contemplating going out for entertainment, you can either take the approach of insisting to not allow yourself to be entertained, or just to accept it for what it is. I mean, as far as whether you're embarrassed to be seen at a racetrack or at a dance club or whatever, it's just try to have a good time. You don't really have a lot of opportunities to have a good time. I mean, if you consider all the work and sacrifice you need to do to be great again, it leaves, I mean, yeah, you know, if you're not indulging in weird carnal pleasures like drug abuse or whatever else, or just eating foods you shouldn't be eating, then you will derive a bit more pleasure from just regular mundane activities like tilling the garden with some animals outside, or maybe cleaning your house or whatever. And there's always that sense of accomplishment when you're done. But that being said too, it is important to seek out means of entertainment to have good times, because then the more good times you have outside of your work and sacrifices, then the more meaning there will be behind your work and sacrifice. So I mean, you're just working and sacrificing all the time and not having any good times, you know, it's going to run you down a little bit. You're not going to, you know, your body won't create any of that dopamine or endorphins, so then you'll just be probably miserable all the time, and you really don't want to do that. Then you know, your work suffers, everybody around you suffers, your family suffers, your children suffer, the animals that have been bestowed to be the guardian of, they suffer as well. So that's why it's important just to keep an open mind. I mean, something like a rodeo, I mean, yeah, you know, when you watch a rodeo on TV, it looks pretty silly and everything, but I mean, you know, if I saw tickets, you know, if I saw some rodeo going on, I'd probably just stop and watch it for the hell of it. You know, why not? I mean, it's something to do, it's different, it's exciting, people get into it, so it's, I mean, you can be like one of those people that are like, oh, that's just a rodeo, who would want to watch that? I'm just going to not allow myself to be entertained and try to be a sophisticated aristocrat and think I'm intellectually superior, and that I'm just going to go home and read books all night, and that's about it. You can definitely take that approach, and hey, I guess it works for some people, but you know, just this whole destructive competitive nature is really, you know, like Chuck Norris said, competition is just meant to bring the best out of people. Once you start using it to sabotage or to belittle other activities and hobbies, then it starts to go haywire a little bit. But speaking of going haywire, what I wanted to talk about today, to try to get back on, you know, our central topic here, is not so much drug addiction, but food addiction. See, food addiction is a lot more, it's more pernicious than drug addiction, because food addiction, you just, you know, maybe not you personally, but most people, myself included, just sort of assume that if you can legally buy anything at the grocery store, or, you know, it's in colorful packaging and everything, it must be decent for you or it must provide some nourishment. But in all reality, probably 90% of what's sold at any grocery store, Whole Foods, Aldi, Cub Foods, Big Joe, Roscoe's, discount store, probably about 90% is unhealthy stuff. And due to that high percentage, you're almost forced to eat some unhealthy stuff. So, as far as whether you're going to be an optimally healthy person, unless you're growing and raising all your own food, you're probably not going to be, unfortunately. Or if you're buying all your food like from an elk, say you buy a couple 100 pounds of elk and store it in your freezer and that's what you eat, and then you eat that and you grow your own broccoli and cauliflower and you eat that, and then maybe you got some strawberry and honeyberry, blueberry bushes and you can grow enough of that to store and eat that. Yeah, if you grow your own junk or buy your own locally pasture-raised, sourced, organic, cage-free food, then you're probably going to be a healthy person and you're going to have the full capacity to make yourself great again and to make your communities great again. But most stuff you get at the store. See, if you buy meat at the store, it's totally 100% different than if you buy bison meat from Sally's Fields. So it's important to keep that in mind, because when you read about, oh, meat is so horrible, it's the worst thing you can eat, what they're talking about is the factory farm meat that's probably full of stress hormones and weird chemicals and maybe some growth hormones that just clog up human receptors and don't really do anything. Well, maybe it'll make you, let's see, I'm getting off on a tangent. But the fact of the matter is, factory farm cows, I mean, just think of yourself. If you were to confine yourself to quarantine for weeks on end, you're going to feel unhealthy, you're going to feel angry and disappointed, and you're probably not going to really want to eat, you're just going to be depressed all the time. Whereas if you're outside walking around, digging up the yard, hanging out with your buddies and all that stuff, you're going to be a happy person, you're going to be able to make yourself great, and then you'll eat healthy and just be healthy. So then if somebody were to eat you, your meat would be healthier. So that's basically the moral of that, the gist of that story there. Now that goes for all animals too. Chickens, cows are the biggest one, especially milking cows. Holstein cows or Jersey cows, whatever ones are usually used for milking. If you're getting milk from a cow that's just sitting in a barn all day or whatever, or inside of, there's this one place that's pretty close to where my parents live, where I grew up, but they got this little plot of land. It's a big giant barn. All the cows are just sitting in there all day, and they take a pitchfork and give them their hay so they can eat that, and then they give them some dirty water so they can drink that. That water probably has the fluoride and chloride and all that other hundreds of other weird chemicals. So I mean, obviously the milk isn't going to be good. Now, if you were to go to some random farm, or maybe not a random farm, but maybe you pick out a nice farm to go to, and they got a Jersey cow that walks around all day, and at 6 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock at night, it walks into its milking station, and then they get milk from it, a couple gallons. So if you get milk from a cow like that, obviously it's going to be vastly superior to the factory farm cow. I mean, that's just common sense. Have I done experiments and have I used some sophisticated machinery to identify all the ingredients in each milk and to say one is healthier than the other? No, I haven't. One reason why I haven't, because number one, I don't have a lot of money, I don't have a lot of space, don't have the means of accessing sophisticated equipment like that, so it's just common sense. Now, you might think, I mean, what's the point of pointing out common sense? I mean, anyone can see common sense if it's common sense, but it seems that a lot of people are extremely busy with whatever they specialize in life, so they they're not able to see the trees in the forest, or the forest through the trees. That's kind of what I've observed over my lifetime, and I'm guilty of it too. I mean, sometimes I'll get all excited if I see 3-day-old meat for sale, or if it's steak or whatever, I'll buy it from Cub Foods because it's got that little sticker on that says $5 off. So I'm just like, hey, yeah, this is probably a pretty rocking deal. And then of course I'll alternate that with eating the organic, locally raised, pasture grazed cow meat, cow meat. So if I just had 500 pounds of cow meat and I had more than enough, then I won't have to buy any of that junk from Cub Foods, which would be highly preferable, because it's not going through all this long chain of processing where they They get the factory farm, they bring the cow to some butcher shop, they butcher it there, they get it on a tractor trailer, then they drive it to all these distribution warehouses, and for the distribution warehouse it gets on another tractor trailer, then for the tractor trailer, then it finally gets to the grocery store. And when it gets to the grocery store, they might hack it up some more there and put it in their little individual packages, and then they'll put it on the shelf. So if you just get meat from a local farmer, it'll go from the farm to the butcher shop to you. So there's 3 steps there. So this other one, there's 7 or 8 steps, maybe even more. I mean, every possible step, they might have to introduce more preservatives or introduce more, more bad bacteria might get brought into the meat or something. And then the reality is, the food that you buy from the shelves, from the store, it's designed so that, one of the reasons why is to limit their liability. Because if you buy food from the store and then you eat it and you die instantly, they can get sued for that. But if you eat it and it's a slow death, they're not liable for that. So that's why pretty much all food you buy from the stores is dead food. I mean, yeah, if you buy raw milk, there is a higher probability you might get salmonella poisoning here and there. But for the most part, people who don't have compromised immune systems don't have a problem with that. Because when I was getting milk for a while, the only time I'd ever feel sickness is when I would take antibiotics, which was just one time when I cut my thumb really bad. But other than that, the raw milk was 3 times more delicious than the weird, watered down, just pasteurized, homogenized milk from the store. And it was one of the things that was really weird is when I would eat a bowl of cereal, it'd feel like a big rock was in my stomach eating the milk-like substance from the store. So then I switched, and this was skim milk too, so then I switched over to the raw milk, which was a lot thicker. So you would think, well, you're eating thicker milk here, you're probably going to feel like a bigger rock is in your stomach. But actually just the opposite happened. It felt lighter, it felt like the milk was actually being digested properly, and it was going through your system and not just clogging everything up or causing, leak stomach or leak gut or whatever that is, and then probably gets a bunch of weird chemicals into your bloodstream that makes you sick and everything. So yeah, I mean, the raw milk was definitely vastly superior to the milk-like substance of the store. So, yeah, that's just one example too. I mean, yeah, it's common sense. It does take additional time to go to a farm and get your little pickle jar and fill up milk and all that too. And you can freeze it. If you get some plastic container, yeah, you can get a few gallons of milk and freeze some of it and then see how it tastes then. That is one avenue you could also attempt to pursue too. But the nice thing about buying a giant cow or bison or elk is that you can just get all the meat at one time. So a few 100 pounds, stick it all in half-pound, 1-pound packages, and then just stick it in the freezer. It's a couple months ago now. Some guy just showed me a picture. He's like, yeah, this is what we did for a couple hours or so, and then it's just a freezer, just a whole bunch of packages of meat, and that's pretty much all the meat he had for a year. So you feed these animals, you raise them, you let them graze on a pasture, and then you spend a couple hours or 4 or 5, 8 hours, and then you got all your meat for the year. And it's healthy meat too. It's not going to have a bunch of strange growth hormones or other antibiotics in it, or sicknesses too, or all the stress hormones too. See, that's the thing. Meat, humans, they got all these receptors in them. So if you're getting cortisol on your receptors, when you eat that meat, that's what you're going to get. Whereas if you're getting good stuff like, maybe not adrenaline, but whatever other good things iodine or something like that can get on your receptors. If you eat that, if you get healthy receptors, then when you eat that, then you get healthy stuff back in your body too. Then your system doesn't have to expend the additional calories to get rid of the toxins, which definitely helps too. So, I mean, your body has systems in it to get rid of toxins at a lower level, to adapt to it slowly. But yeah, I mean, if you just flood it with salmonella right away, yeah, it could take over, and it's going to take a while, and you'll probably have to go on some 3-day food fast to get rid of it, hopefully. And if it gets bad enough, you might not even be able to stand up without getting lightheaded and things like that too. So yeah, so I mean, it's good to have locally organic, pasture-raised food and all that good fun stuff. And especially if you got a family, if you got growing children, I mean, you certainly don't want to inhibit your kids' growth patterns and to have them grow up having like weird deformities or just being overly small or having small brains or small intestines or any of that kind of stuff too. So I mean, yeah, when they're younger, you know, you are responsible for it. And the thing with humans is too, humans have really big heads. So when you come out of, you know, your mom, you do most of your growing outside of their body. Because you look at a cow, yeah, cows get really, really big. But you know, when they're born, they're already a couple 100 pounds. So yeah, I mean, they grow up to about 1,000 pounds. So they might, yeah, they probably quintuple in size. But I mean, a human is grown, oh, at 10 pounds, we'll round up, you know, anywhere from 5 to 10 pounds. So I mean, a human might grow to 150, 200 pounds. So a human literally grows 15 to 20 times its weight when it's born, whereas a cow might only grow, you know, 5 to 10 times. I mean, because humans have these really big heads, so that, you know, your head has to fit through the birthing canal too, and then the rest of your body has to grow to catch up with it. So if you're malnourished at a young age and the rest of your body doesn't catch up, you know, you might have a disproportionately large head for the rest of your body, and then it'll bring on a lot of neck and back pain and just stuff that you really don't want to deal with, and probably nobody else that's around you will want to have you deal with either. So that's why good nutrition at a young age, and eating a lot of calories too, that's probably the biggest thing. I mean, if probably the best indicator, if a child is, you know, a little on the pudgier side, then you know that they're probably getting plenty of nutrition. Now, yeah, if they're eating French fries and donuts all day, then obviously that's not a good thing at all. Or candy. Candy is probably the absolute worst thing that children can eat, and anybody can eat in general. So definitely advise against that. But yeah, humans are a little different than a lot of the other mammals out there too. And you know, most mammals out there, see, the interesting thing is bears are attracted to sugars. So you think, well, you know, sugars, they might be healthy than if wild animals are attracted to it. But in all reality, that's just not the case. I mean, bears, mammals, and humans, you know, humans are a mammal, more or less, you know, with spiritual realm and all that. But what I found, especially with hens, which obviously aren't mammals, you know, they're fowl, but if they have sweet food, junk food available to them, they'll probably eat that before eating good food, because last summer, when all the apples were falling off the apple trees, the hens found out that they could just eat apples, and then they just load up on apples, and then when it came time to eating worms, they didn't want to eat worms anymore. Now you might think back to when I told you about when I'd feed chicken the corn and industrial lubricant soy feed, that they didn't want to eat that and they want to eat worms instead. And yeah, it's true, because there's not sweetness or flavor to that. But apples and fruit, and you know, with a lot of fructose in it, and that's, you know, satisfies their sweet tooth. Then, and the other thing too, you know, they might feel that it's just a seasonal product, so they got to eat it now while they can, while it's still available. Whereas worms are pretty seasonable too. But I mean, they can eat worms all the way from April through probably October, as long as the ground isn't frozen. You can still dig them up. So. And you know, they're eating insects and seeds and other little critters and caterpillars all hours of the day too. You know, pretty much any time of the year that it's not winter. So yeah, if there are apples and sweet stuff available to them, yeah, they'll totally indulge on it. And bears too. Bears will, certain times of the year, bears will, you know, hunt down and ravage some berry plants and then just eat berries for that part of the year too, rather than, you know, hunting down whatever else they eat. So I mean, yeah, animals probably have a more accurate feedback system. I mean, if they eat a bunch of apples and feel crappy about it, maybe they'll be smart enough not to eat them. See, we just tend to assume that animals know what's best for themselves, but I mean, they probably do in all actuality. But I mean, you know, last year when the chickens weren't eating worms anymore, it was a very, maybe not so much disheartening, but it was a little alarming that they were just eating junky apples and yeah, I mean, yeah, obviously apples are grown. They don't have any pesticides or synthetic fertilizers or herbicides on them, the ones out here at least. So you think, yeah, it must not be a big deal if they're eating apples and strawberries, but I mean, that's just carbohydrates, you know, there's no fat and protein in that. But for the most part, the chickens, when they're smart about their eating, they just seem to go for the fats and proteins. But yeah, even animals can get tempted into eating things maybe they shouldn't be eating. But one of the things that was somewhat promising though is when I I bought like a box of. We're gonna get into this next segment into food addiction, which I actually haven't really got into yet, but we will soon. So I bought a box of cereal one time a couple months ago because I thought I was gonna maybe reintroduce it back into my diet, but I ate it, felt like crap. So I poured out the rest of the cereal inside the chicken coop, and they didn't really want to seem to eat it, which was a promising sign because it shows that it's a low quality food. It probably is, none of the nutrients in it are probably bioavailable, and it's a completely dry food. And for every pound of food, there might only be about 1,000 calories. So that tells you that there's about 2,500 calories of waste inside just like toasted oat cereal. And this is sugar-free cereal. For cereal, it's on the relatively healthier side, but just for food in general, it's probably not healthy at all. It's probably but just more or less glorified candy in the form of something that should be somewhat healthy and vitamin fortified and all that. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're coming out to a break now, but in the near future, we're going to have Good Times Balls Deep. The host sounds like next Wednesday he's going to finalize the sponsorship deal, so then he'll be able to have plenty of funding for Good Times Balls Deep, and then hopefully we can get it fired up. And I got the parts to fix my car too, so I'll probably go meet him maybe this weekend or sometime during the week up here. But there really isn't a weekend here at Tex Messages or Good Times Balls Deep. It's just 7 days a week, hammer down, pedal to the metal. Basically a weekend here as far as any activities outside of text messages just means more filming for text messages. So I suppose, this will obviously remain a hobby. We certainly don't need any. Yeah, it's good to have sponsors and everything too. But I mean, if it gets to the point where the show starts to become impeded with sponsorships and you got to have commercials and all that, then it's just not something that we really want to do. So that's the important thing that you, the ladies and gentlemen at home, are getting the best experience. And I mean, I got 24 hours in a day, so sleep for 8 hours, satisfy sponsors for 8 hours, do the show for an hour, maybe do some prep work and read research articles for an hour or two. It's not that hard. You don't need to overcomplicate. Just try to create a schedule and adhere to it, and then make Elk River great again. So it feels like, especially Good Times Balls Deep, I think that'll be definitely a contributing factor to your entertainment and to making St. Cloud great again. Because if Text Messages can make Elk River great again, and Good Times Balls Deep can make Good Times Balls Deep will probably make Elk River greater again than this show could, and it also makes St. Cloud great again, and Minnesota and ultimately America great again. It's good to have it in the pipeline. Yeah, it will be happening in the very near future. So I'm just proud to announce it each and every day when I come on here. And I'm just totally exhilarated when I get to finally watch it. Otherwise, as far as talk shows, mostly just stick with InfoWars, and that's probably about it. I mean, they got a decent amount of content on there, and it's pretty insightful stuff. As far as cable news, I mean, I can't even remember the last time I watched CNN or Fox News, so it may seem that I'm slightly out of the loop or just out of touch with reality, which is perfectly fine because it seems like that reality just forces propaganda on people. Things that you read about in high school about how North Korea would force propaganda on all their citizens, and then you observe what's happening in our cable news networks, and it's very similar to what the textbooks say that North Korea or Russia were doing to their citizens. So there's that, ladies and gentlemen. All right, Good Times Balls Deep in the very near future, and on the pair side of the show, Rick Tex will be back in, looks like about 4.5 minutes. Welcome back to Tex Messages, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry about that slight delay. Once again, I forgot to delete the prior episode from the SD card, so we only had about 54 minutes of filming. So I just figured I would, shut the camera off and delete the old one and then start filming again. Sounds pretty simple and straightforward, but the reality is, I was always a little bit worried about doing that on the fly because then I might delete the first half of the show, that we just filmed, 5 minutes ago. So that's why I would usually just cut the show off early after 58 minutes or 59 minutes, whatever the case is. But I mean, to have only a 54-minute show would be a bit of an unfair circumstance for you, the ladies and gentlemen at home. So that's why I just decided to just go ahead and just delete the previous show and then just continue recording again. Yeah, I know it's unedited, uncensored, uncut, uncensored, unedited, uncut. I thought there was another "un" in there, but that's probably about. It's basically live television, but we don't have the bandwidth to transmit live, so I just film it and then not do any editing. Now, yeah, maybe if something horrendous happens, then maybe we will edit it out. But for the most part, it is what it is. It's as close to live as we can get on the budget that we have. Now, yesterday I met with some sponsors for the show. Yeah, I mean, seemed like the meeting went okay, but I mean, it's all long term. It's on a best case scenario. We might lock in some sponsors a couple weeks or maybe even up to a month from now. And on the other hand, too, it is a bit of a deterrent because I was going to talk to another sponsor, but I mean, one thing you don't want to do is to commit to one sponsor and then a month later another sponsor comes along that's vastly superior and then you got to kick the other one to the curb. I mean, that's something that I absolutely want to avoid, but at some point then it gets to where it's a year later and you don't have any sponsors and then what do? You kind of dug yourself in, and it's harder to get sponsors too when you don't have them after a year. So I mean, yeah, we're just always pedal to the metal, balls deep and hammer down and everything too, but it's just, as far as sponsorship goes, it's not, procuring sponsorship has never really been one of my strengths, and running a big group of people or whatever is also not a strength either. So that's why the producers on the show are very lacking and limiting, and yeah. So I mean, if I do have good news to report from the sponsorship front, we absolutely will, and hopefully provide some better equipment too. And I was looking at microphones. It's very difficult to tell which one is better or worse than the other. It would be nice just to spend, get a good sponsorship and then just to drop a few grand on a professional microphone and not have to dick around with, these $200 or $300 microphones that maybe will sound a little bit better, but maybe I just need to have the more pillows around the camera or whatever the case is. So we'll see. Barry, if you got any suggestions, glad to hear them. Anything that'll bring every state to a higher state, or bring anything that'll help to make Elk River great again. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so we wanted to talk about food addiction here, and how serious of a problem it is, and how it seems innocuous, but it is probably right up there with cocaine and pharmaceutical prescription drug abuse. I mean, if you're just eating donuts all day or French fries all day, then you probably know yourself that it's a very unhealthy thing, or just eating fried foods in general, eating grease and all that. Very unhealthy stuff, especially candy, especially when it's marketed to children. And we will go after those corporations someday that market candy for children. We're not ready for it yet, but someday we will come after them, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to come after them hard. We're going to come after them ferociously and relentlessly, and hopefully until no sugar exists inside packaged foods. Especially, we'll probably start going after all the colorful packaging that's marketed to children. Your gummy worms or your gummy bears or lifesavers or the Mamba or Tootsie Rolls, all that garbage. We're going to come after them first, hopefully to get all them, it's not so much to get them eradicated from food shelves because that would seem pretty authoritarianism and just creating more rules, but just to bring awareness to society to where so few people buy that garbage that stores are forced to remove them from the shelves because they don't make a profit anymore. That's what we're hoping to do. I mean, am I going to go to the stairs of Congress and lobby and whine and complain about implementing new laws to get rid of sugar and candy and packages marketed to children? No. But I'm just going to try to bring realization to you, the ladies and gentlemen at home, of the detrimental effects, and using myself as an example. I mean, when you look at me, you're like, man, that guy looks like he got hit in the forehead with a metal rod, and his head looks like a bowling ball compared to the rest of his body. And most of that is attributed to malnourishment as a child. So, I mean, it's not really a look that anyone should desire, and it's not a functional look either. But fortunately, I'm able to identify the enemy forces that have brought the detrimental effects upon not only just me but all other children in general. So I'm excited to come after them, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you feel some bit of exhilaration too. And yeah, I mean, the end goal is just to make sure all that junk is off all of our shelves at the stores, the local stores, and hopefully just everywhere in general, and that people just don't buy candy in the first place. And then hopefully after that we can just get to eradicating sugar in general. But unfortunately, I'm not sure that might be a very futile endeavor, because if we were to eradicate sugar in its refined form, then it'll probably just be replaced by artificial sweeteners that don't have the proper testing or vetting, like aspartame or stevia or all this other weird stuff that claims to be good and healthy and has extensive testing done to it, but in all reality it's probably just as bad, if not worse, than sugars. And same as something like monosodium glutamate that basically mimics brain pathways or whatever the case is. So I mean, that's also very dangerous stuff too. So I mean, it's just important to just to be aware of when you're eating sweet foods that it's really, you can train your taste buds to enjoy bland foods. Like, I mean, I could eat not a whole bag of pecans, but I could eat probably 1,000 calories worth of pecans in one sitting, and it feels great. It's just as satisfactory as eating a pizza 10 years ago was, or eating candy 20 years ago was to me. And it takes time, though, to train your taste buds to do that. I mean, even once a week, I might eat a few spoonfuls of raw, unpasteurized, locally harvested honey. And then I'll eat some pecans after that, and it's like the pecans don't really taste as good because all the taste buds are coated with the sugar and the sweeteners, so from the honey. So I mean, yeah, it's a long-term training, just like exercise or being a good person. It just doesn't happen overnight. But you make the time it takes to make the decision can happen overnight, but the time to where you want to be or where you need to be it's a long process. And it's a ever-evolving process too. It's never-ending. I mean, it's just from cradle to grave, just try to be the best you can be. It's like fighting evil forces. I mean, evil forces are never be fully, completely eradicated. But think of it as, exercise. You need to exercise every single day. You need to eat every single day. You need to sleep every single day. So you also need to fight evil forces every single day. Just because they're not going to be eradicated doesn't mean that you should lay down and cry and cower to them and become a craven and just bow down to all their needs and demands. And you have to fight them every single day. Life is a war, and every day is a battle. Once you realize and understand that it's not meant to be easy, then it makes the task more manageable, and sometimes it's even fun. And, I'm having a good time right now. I mean, I know that when we start coming after these, once we start coming after these corporate sponsors to marketing sugar to kids and everything in their little colorful packaging, I'll probably have a good time doing it. No doubt about it. But I mean, it's serious business too. Now, if you just want to sit around all day and have a good time, that's not what builds society. If you're at work doing road construction and you're having the time of your life, then yeah, good. That's a wonderful thing. And that's what I've alluded to earlier. If you get rid of carnal pleasures in your life, like drug abuse or pleasuring yourself or going to random bars and pleasuring women, if you eliminate those from your life, you will derive more pleasure from doing gardening or doing road construction or talking to people on Facebook. So your body has the systems in place to enjoy that kind, to just have pleasures at some point in time. Now, yeah, it's challenge, success, reward. So reward is part of that. But if you're just all reward and no challenge or no success, then your life will get out of balance, and you won't be able to make yourself great again, or your communities great again too. So I mean, there is also that to consider, ladies and gentlemen. Now, yeah, I've been harping on it that we're going to get into the food addiction. So, I mean, it's almost to the point maybe I should just hold it off for another episode. But I'll go ahead and just and get started here. So, the University of Michigan and Mount Sinai and St. Luke's Hospital in New York. They hooked up like this neural imaging machine to your brain, and what they found is that when you eat certain foods, your brain lights up similarly to as it does when you take cocaine, which I've stated a few times before. So when you eat bad foods, it's essentially just eating cocaine. Now you may ask what the bad foods are. It's just something like sugars, omega-6 fats, the greasy fats, the trans fats. It's just very bad, awful stuff for you. So what these guys did is they asked 500 people to identify 35 foods that are a problem eating. One of the problems is they can't cut down eating them, or they lose control, or they never feel like they're eating enough of it. So your brain just, when you eat these foods that are completely void of micronutrients, your brain's just constantly telling you, hey, we need more calories to eradicate these toxins that they're eating. So if you eat 500 dirty calories, your body's going to eat about 400 to eradicate the toxins. Whereas if you eat 500 clean calories, then your body's going to say, all right, yeah, we're full, we got plenty of calories here, so we're good to go. And one of the other correlations that they found is that the processing tends to have higher addictive qualities. It increases blood spike. What the processing means is if you put a lot of sugars or fructoses in a food at a disproportionate rate that's not found in nature, that's more or less what it means there. Basically making artificial foods. If you get a strawberry, yeah, it's got sugar in it and all that, and fructose and that kind of junk, but it's got it there's a ratio of fiber to sugar that's pretty reasonable. So if you're just loading up on teaspoons of sugar, not eating any fiber, it's just your blood sugar is going to spike, and if you got diabetes, it's going to get completely out of hand and out of control, and eventually your pancreas is probably just going to shut down too. So that's one of the things to be wary of. You can, what I did in the past, I worked with this guy. He's a really cool guy. He's got, I still keep correspondence with him through email. He's got no reason to talk to me. He just does because he's a really super nice guy. He's an awesome fellow. So he had some type of diabetic condition. So he recommended that I get a few of these items from Walmart. The company is called Reliance. So you get like these little needles, and you get little test strips, and then you get this handheld. It's just some glucose meter testing device, and then you get a I don't know what it's called, but a lancet device where it pricks your fingers, so then you can draw blood from it and then put it on the patch and then stick the patch inside the tester machine deal. So you get that, and then if you eat a big giant sugar infested meal and then measure your blood after that, ideally they have ranges on there where if you're 150 you're pre-diabetic, if you're over 200 you're diabetic. So anybody can go to Walmart right now and buy all that. I'll buy those 4 things. The lancets, the little needles, the test patches, the lancet device that administers the needles, and then the little handheld electronic device that measures your blood glucose. So you can go to Walmart and get them, and then, so if you measure your blood sugar maybe 1 or 2 hours after meals, you can accurately determine whether you might have pre-diabetes. You might even be diabetic yourself. And you can sort of adjust it. See, it is nice to be able to, if you just walk around all day like, oh man, I felt like crap after I ate that meal, but I don't really know for sure. I just think I may have felt like crap. But if you can actually, there's no doubt going by feelings is also very important too, especially if you notice consistent patterns in your feelings. If you eat peanuts and you consistently feel like crap, you probably shouldn't eat peanuts anymore. Even if you've been conditioned to think and trained by the media to think that they're really healthy, just know that maybe you probably shouldn't be eating it. Because yeah, maybe they've been putting a bunch of glyphosates in the peanuts, and then that's causing a very deleterious effect to you. So then it's important to recognize those patterns and then to probably get rid of peanuts from your diet, even though you think they're healthy. So if you're measuring blood sugar a couple hours after a meal, then you know that you can say definitively, okay, yeah, my blood sugar is 200, whatever, so that's probably why I feel like crap afterwards. So maybe I should change up what meals I'm eating, or just not eat a whole bunch of garbage at one time. So there's also, it's just very important, even if you don't have any family member that's diabetic or nothing. You might be an undiagnosed diabetic. How often do you actually go to the doctor to figure out that stuff? And even when you go to the doctor, is the doctor really going to know for sure whether you have those conditions or not? They might measure your blood sugar at fasting rate and then think like, oh yeah, you're good, you're under 100. So there's that, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, if you can, like Theranos, that company with the blonde-haired girl that talked in a really weird, deep voice, she, their whole idea was that they can test blood and get a whole bunch of sickness signals from that, but I found out that they're just a bunch of fraudsters, so that's unfortunate. But something like, just what you can just do what you can do, as far as trying to make yourself healthy again, and then to read, measures of your blood or whatever. I mean, yeah, if you want to read cholesterol and all that other goofy stuff, then more power to you. The more the merrier. So we're coming up to another break, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have Good Times Balls Deep in the near future. Not really sure what exactly topics the host wants to cover. It'll be a variety show, obviously, but he'll definitely cover more hard-hitting topics, more controversial, polemical. He'll make them exciting and entertaining and bring light to a lot of mundane issues, and obviously he'll make St. Cloud great again, and I think you, the ladies and gentlemen at home, will enjoy it. I'm really pumped for it. Fortunately, I've got my sleep patterns back in line. I mean, we've been planning the show for a long time, a couple months here, so yeah, when it does finally hit the ground, he was able to procure a sponsor, so next Wednesday it sounds like is when he begins to satisfy those duties. So hopefully they'll be able to provide adequate funding for Good Times Balls Deep, and it does require a bit of time investment, but I mean, obviously to run a quality program like Good Times Balls Deep, that the host is so ultra talented that he doesn't really need to do any prep work. Now yeah, when you watch this show, you probably think like, oh, maybe you should do prep work. But I mean, he won't really need to do that. Just hit the ground running on 12 cylinders and hit the top cushion running hammer down, and it's going to be a great show. It'll make St. Cloud great again, and I'm just proud to be able to do the promotions for it, even if the ratings for Tex Messages are in the toilet right now. But you just got to keep working ahead and moving forward, ladies and gentlemen, and see, the true sign of a man is how much you're motivated when all odds are against you. If you know that you only have a 0.02% success rate, but you're still motivated and ambitious, and you're still willing to put the hammer down and go pedal to the metal all out every day, all day, any day, that's the true sign of a man, ladies and gentlemen. So that being said, we're going to be back in 3 minutes. You're listening to Tex Messages. I'm the parasite of the show. Actually, we'll be back in 4 minutes. We're experimenting with different intermission songs here. So give us 4 minutes, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll be right back.
Someone will lose, someone must win.
Welcome back to Tex Messages, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the parasite of the show, Rick Tex. We're glad to have you here once again. It's Tuesday morning, it's May 1st, 2018. We're on the 29th episode. We're talking about food addiction and hopefully how you can get rid of it and get it out of your life and make yourself great again. Now, a while back, I always tried to convince myself that I wasn't an addict. But probably about the first 30 years of my life, I was eating cereal every single day, and sometimes it'd be up to about 5 bowls, and you get to the point where maybe 1,500 to 2,000 calories of all the food I ate in a typical day was from cereal. Now you think, well, cereal seems really healthy. I mean, it's got vitamins in it, but the sad reality is cereal is just mostly all carbohydrates. There's no fat or no protein. There's a little bit of protein in cereal, but there's no fat in any kind of cereal, maybe oatmeal, and the vitamins and minerals that are in it are, some weird synthetic form that probably aren't bioavailable or probably aren't even absorbed by your body. Or hell, they probably just go through your liver and your liver needs to filter them out, and then it just causes more hassle than what they're really worth. So cereal, for the most part, the illusion is that it's healthy, but in all reality, it's not. So every time I eat cereal, I always feel, run down or tired or bogged down or feel like I got a rock in my stomach. So I knew I had a problem, but I was always craving it. So what do you do? I always try to convince myself, well, it's got all the vitamins and minerals in it, so, it's got zinc in it, it's got to be healthy. It took me a while to finally figure out that it was just all fortified with vitamins and minerals, which aren't even bioavailable, as I've just stated, so. And the reality, cereal is toasted at really high temperatures, and then it's made into these weird, funny shapes. And a lot of some cereal is more than 50% sugar by weight, so the first ingredient, like Golden Puffs, or Frosted Flakes, sugar is probably the first ingredient on Golden Puffs, but Frosted Flakes, they might have corn, then sugar. But yeah, it's basically just eating straight sugar, those types of cereal. Eventually, so I started out eating, the sugary cereal with the milk-like substance from the store. So eventually, I figured, all right, let's try to get this a little bit more healthy and get rid of the sugars. So I would go to toasted oats or corn flakes without the sugar, or just eating regular oatmeal, just raw oatmeal. Rice Chex was another one. Corn Chex, that was a pretty good one, and then wheat Chex too. And there's one other grain that you could eat, barley. So I had rice, wheat, corn, barley, and then there was rye too. But rye and barley cereal, you don't really find that. So I found this one multi-grain cereal which had all those multifarious grains in them. I figured, all right, yeah, I'm getting hit with every grain here, so it's got to be healthy. Yeah, it had some additional sugar to it too, and everything too. And in all reality, I'm sure it was just wildly unhealthy. It probably had gluten and the carcinogens in rice and the GMOs in corn and soy. So, well, there wasn't any. Maybe there is soy cereal, but I don't know about this. There was soy milk that you could eat with cereal. And one of the problems I had there was probably about a year where I would eat soy milk with oatmeal, but I found out that almost all the time it felt like I needed to have my throat cleared out. Now you might notice sometimes I'll lose my voice or sometimes I need to cough a little bit on this show, but it's usually because I literally just ate some breakfast and then we just go right to the show. So you still, there might still be a bit of acid reflux or some still processing of food that's going on. But with the soy milk and oatmeal, pretty much all hours of the day it felt like there's some phlegm in my throat or I had to cough it up or spit it out, or like when you talk to these old out of shape guys and they're always constantly clearing their throat when you're talking to them, and it's just super annoying and you don't really care what they're talking about if they're just clearing their throat the whole time. It just becomes a very painful experience to deal with it and annoying at that. So soy definitely seemed to have a very obvious negative effect as far as having to clear your throat all the time. Now that being said, soy is probably one of the most unhealthy foods available. In GMO, genetic engineering, whatever, which is very poorly tested, and You know, the FDA basically covers up for a lot of the chicanery that goes on in genetically engineered food. So it's best just to avoid them. I know you can go on any you can go online right now and find a whole bunch of information. They'll say GMO foods are safe. They're safe to consume and all that and stuff. And yeah, in this day and age, anyone can create facts. As long as you can fund the research, then you can create the facts. So just use common sense and judgment there. Now getting back to the cereal though. So when I knew I had a problem, I was eating sugary cereal 3, 4, 5 bowls a day. And it was just getting out of hand. Probably 70% of my calorie consumption was from cereal. And it's just all carbohydrates. So I mean, it's just you get the sugar high, sugar down, sugar high, sugar down. So I'd eat cereal and 2 hours later I'd be craving it again. So I mean, yeah, it's pretty obvious there's a problem, but I figured, alright, maybe it can't be that bad for you. It's cereal, it's got vitamins in it, and blah, blah, blah. It's not sugar, it's not candy, or it's not donuts. It can't be horrible. Well, the reality is, yeah, it is pretty horrible. Especially when you eat it before you go to bed, because then... See, I was getting to the point where I had to wake up a lot at night to urinate. Maybe 3, 4, 5 times, and when you first encounter that, you think, well, it must be the prostate cancer. I should go to a doctor and check this out. But in all reality, when I switched to the antibiotic diet, which is 5, 6 days a week, mostly fats and protein, and then carbohydrates on the weekend, good carbohydrates like citrus fruits or oatmeal or beans, hummus, honey, maybe some other type of dried fruit or good healthy stuff. Not garbage like eating Laffy Taffy or cotton candy. The first thing I noticed when I went to the antibiotic diet is that sometimes, I might have to wake up twice in the middle of the night to urinate or something, or maybe twice before I go to bed, and then I might wake up once at 3, 4 in the morning, and then maybe I got to wake up at 8 in the morning when I normally wake up to do that. So, but it wasn't like when I was eating a bunch of cereal and I had to wake up like 5 times a night. So that was the biggest thing I noticed that I could absolutely say with certainty, that if you don't eat a lot of carbohydrates before you go to bed, you probably can eliminate nighttime urination if you're having a problem with it. Now, if you're not having a problem with it, then I guess it doesn't apply to your circumstances. So, eating the cereals all the time, it's like, okay, could I, if I just go cold turkey, I wasn't really willing to go cold turkey. It just didn't feel like the other support structure was in place. So what I would do is, the first thing I did was I tried to eat healthier cereal. I would eat raw oatmeal, which probably helped a lot, and then get toasted oats or like I said, rice, eggs, corn, rechecks, all that good fun stuff that doesn't have a lot of sugar or molasses in it or artificial sweeteners. So I tried to start eating them to get a little bit healthier, but having the same problems, the same cravings and everything, same nighttime urination. So I figured, all right, maybe it's the milk. So rather than getting the milk-like substance from the store with the pasteurization and homogenization, I started to go to some almond milk or cashew milk or coconut milk, and it seemed to help a little bit, but in all reality, I was just probably eating less calories because the milk didn't have the... But it did seem to improve a little bit, because the milk from the store, found out that I was probably lactose intolerant from switching to different types of milk. So that definitely improved the condition a little bit, but it didn't fully eradicate the foundation core of the problem. Still had the craving, still had nighttime urination, still felt very unhealthy eating just cereals all the time. So then, I moved to the raw milk, which made a pretty big difference. I mean, it proved to me that raw milk was a very good thing to consume. But, the core problems were still there. So I eventually got to the point where I'm just like, all right, well, I got to find a replacement for this. So I started eating cereal without the milk, and same problem. So then I was able to know, all right, so I've attempted every iteration of the liquid that goes with the milk, and even without the milk, or even without the liquid, and the problems are still there. They're still occurring. So I knew that I was probably just going to have to eradicate cereal altogether from dieting and eating. And to do that, one of the things that I enjoyed about cereal is you can eat so much of it and it has so little calorie, because doesn't have a lot of nutrients in it. It's a very just filler dense food. It might be 30% calories, 70% garbage. So you can sit down and spend about 20 minutes eating cereal and you get 1,000 calories. Whereas if you spend 5 minutes sitting down eating pecans, you'd get 1,000 calories. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, yeah, I get I derive more pleasure, longer pleasure from eating the cereal, so I just gotta hope it's healthy. But at some point, you just realize that, okay, when you're spending this extra time, yeah, you're getting the more pleasure in the moment eating that cereal, but then you gotta suffer the 3, 4, 5 hours of feeling like crap afterwards, and probably just permanently feeling like crap afterwards. So to find a replacement for the cereal, it was mostly tree nuts because it had the similar preparation. I mean, tree nuts, you can just get them, eat them. You don't have to cook them or boil them or steam them or soak them in water and put them in a crock pot all day. You just get them, cut the package open, start eating them. So cereal was the same way. So I was able to supplant the cereal with the tree nuts because the level of preparation was the same. Now, yeah, obviously, you don't get as much pleasure in the moment eating tree nuts because it only takes you a quarter of the time to eat the tree nuts to get the same amount of calories as a cereal. However, since the tree nuts don't have all that gross filler that your body probably has to use additional calories to get rid of, you could probably eat more calories of tree nuts and feel the same as if you, say for example, you eat a pound of tree nuts, which half a pound, so it's 1,800 calories. If you eat a half a pound of cereal, it's about 800 calories. But so you could probably eat about 3 times as much cereal by weight, and then your body will have to use the additional calories to get rid of all the waste material in the cereal, and then all of the calories you're getting from the tree nuts are just good quality, clean source. So right away that just goes into your body, and you get a surge of energy, and you can go hike mountains or climb trees and all that. That's why a lot of mountain climbers will use peanut or just nuts in general, cashews and pecans, because it's so densely packed with energy. Now, yeah, you might think, well, shouldn't they just like carry Jello or just pure honey with them because it's just all energy? Yeah, it probably works too, but that tends to burn off a lot faster than tree nuts, the fat. So that's why they usually have the tree nuts with them, obviously. So I found that for me, gaining weight was obviously an important thing because when you're living in Minnesota and back then I was probably only 120, 130 pounds when I had that major cereal addiction. I finally kicked it. So then it was kind of nice to be able to eat the tree nuts because I could, sit down and eat more calories and then use those calories for energy storage or to use the actual energy to do stuff. To go dig around in the garden or shovel snow or to lift weights or to stand in front of the camera and say stuff. So if you're going to kick an addiction, it's important to have something to replace it with that requires the same amount of prep work that you can buy from the same source and all that stuff too. I mean, if you're addicted to cocaine, it's like, all right, well, what do you replace it with? I mean, do you replace it with a cup of coffee or a Red Bull energy drink? I've never had those weird addictions before, so it's always very difficult to tell. And like alcohol, for example, if you go out to a bar or to a party or something and you feel you need to drink alcohol, it's like, you can go to a bar and a party and act like a moron and be completely sober, and then you can still drive home. So, you just gotta allow yourself to have a good time. Anyone that goes to a bar or party, the whole intention is to act like a moron, so you may as well be the best moron you can be. I mean, yeah, when you're at work, do you want to act like a moron? Probably not, but if you're at a nightclub, absolutely. Even if you're sober and feel like you're going to look like an idiot. Because, yeah, you are going to look like an idiot, but the whole objective is to look like an idiot. So if everybody is looking like idiots, then nobody looks like an idiot. So that's kind of how I approach that. But, as far as just drinking at home and everything, too, if you do that a lot, just as far as replacement for it, if you don't feel there's a problem, then obviously don't bother to change it. But for me in cereal, there definitely was a problem, and I tried to convince myself there wasn't, but in reality, there certainly was. So it was just nice to be able to replace that with tree nuts, just things that you can, same preparation, same way you eat them and everything. So yeah, there's even less dishes to wash with tree nuts too, because you don't have to, pour milk in a bowl or anything like that. So yeah, there was a bit of a simplification from going from cereal to the tree nuts. Now that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this there was another article I had here about opioids in food. I'll just go ahead and get into that right now. We got a little bit of time left. So, food addiction also results from opiates in food, and wheat and dairy is the biggest. In wheat, they have something called gluten exorphine, and in milk, they got bovine casomorphine. Now, you hear the term morphine, you think like, oh yeah, that's the pain reducer, reliever. Breast milk in humans has morphine in it, which is probably why kids always cry to get their milk, because it relieves, makes them feel good. It makes them feel better. So, I mean, you might see some studies like, oh, it's the feeling of sucking on a nipple that reduces their stress or reduces their pain or anger or frustration. But it looks like milk has morphines in it, in its natural form, breast milk from females. So that's kind of interesting too. And what they also found is fructose, the sugar that's found in fruits, and sucrose is the table sugar. But I mean, it's pretty much the same for all oses, fructose, glucose, sucrose. So it increases brain levels of endogenous morphine following ingestion. And fructose isolated is highly toxic and linked to over 70 health conditions. Now, fructose is usually, in nature, it's found with, fructose in a strawberry is found with all the other fibers and corresponding ingredients to break it down. Or to slow it down in your digestive system too. So that's why it's important to eat. So that's why when they say eating food in its natural state is important, because then when you process it and you remove all the fiber and just have a bunch of sugar, then it's just really bad for you and linked to 70 health conditions. So there is that to consider. And lastly, coffee has psychoactive properties that reduce stress, raising threshold of anxiety or aggression. So it kind of works against the caffeine. Now, you probably correlate coffee and caffeine, but caffeine is just, it's found naturally in the cocoa bean. I mean, if you eat dark chocolate, you're going to get caffeine too. But I mean, you got caffeine in Red Bull energy drinks and all that garbage too, and pop is soda pop. So, but you don't have the psychoactive properties that reduce the stress, anxiety, or that increase the threshold of aggression and all that too. So yeah, the cocoa bean. I mean, for me, I took the LCAT test and it said that I shouldn't eat cocoa, and I found that when I eradicate dark chocolate / cocoa from my diet, that I feel a lot better and I don't have any weird sicknesses. So for me, eating dark chocolate is a very bad thing. But for somebody else, if you're drinking a lot of coffee, you might be better off eating, the dark chocolate, because it'll have it'll have the caffeine in it, and then it'll have a bunch of other good healthy stuff too, and it won't be like an overload of caffeine or whatever is in coffee at one dose. So that's just something to consider too, because when I did eat dark chocolate before, I found out that it was probably very bad for me. And I mean, it's bad for dogs and other animals too, so it's just good to not have it around the house. But what I found is that, you just put it in your mouth, let it melt, and then you get a little bit of energy rush and hopefully all the other good things. But yeah, for me, I get stomach pains and all that, so it's just not a good thing. That's why it's important to write down all the food you eat too, because you might read something that says, oh yeah, this is so healthy, it's got 38 different kinds of vitamins and minerals, and it's got the perfect ratio of fat to protein and little carbohydrates. But then you might eat it, and then you might just get violently ill from it, so then it's good to probably not eat it anymore. And maybe it's because they're using neonicotinoids to grow it, or they got glyphosates that they're spraying on the food too, so maybe you just need a cleaner source, like maybe proteins, for example, or maybe peanuts. If I got peanuts from a locally grown orchard that didn't put glyphosates on it, yeah, maybe they would be perfectly healthy and make me great again, or make you great again, or St. Cloud great again. So the common sense approach works even on multifaceted levels of analysis here. So I mean, yeah, to just say peanuts are outright bad, you sort of have to evaluate the source of the peanuts, what they're putting on the peanuts, and how they're growing the peanuts, and if they're genetically engineered or not. So they're just good things to consider for your health and to make you great again. Now, that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I think this concludes the show for today. I'm glad to have you here once again. It's Tex Messages, episode 29. Hopefully we somewhat delved into food addictions and how you should try to eradicate them, and just all addictions generally. If you know you have a problem. I mean, yeah, you sleep every day, so are you addicted to sleep? I mean, it doesn't seem like sleep is a problem. If you sleep every day, that's probably a good thing. If you exercise now if you're exercising to the point where you're breaking down your muscles and not building them up, yeah, you might have an exercise addiction. Or if you're a workaholic and your family hates you because you're at work all the time, then you might have a working problem too. But just trying to keep things in balance and not getting out of control with food addictions and everything. Because food addiction is very tough to recognize sometimes. I mean, if you're eating pizza every single day and you're eating the greasy pizza and you know that it's probably not healthy for you, but you just keep eating it and you think that you try to cope with it and say, oh yeah, well it's got a lot of nutrition in it, so it must be okay, but I always feel like crap. Yeah, it's probably an addiction, so just keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen. Just make yourselves... You can go to all the motivational speakers you want, but I mean, if you're not a healthy person physically, the mind over matter will not work. It needs to be mind with matter. I mean, you always work together with things. I mean, if you try to be a control freak and force this, that, and the other thing, it just usually doesn't work. And we're in this world together with the plants, nature, animals, the Almighty. So with that being said, in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, the parasite of the show, Rick Tex, we're glad to have you here once again. We'll be back Thursday morning. Thank you very much.